So the next half of our meeting today is going to feature two presentations from partners pulling us up out of tooling and automation. We're going to have Giovanna speak first on protecting IP from devaluation via OpenChain Conformance. So we're zooming up towards the top of the pyramid here instead of the details of how to conform or how to automate. So Giovanna, if it's okay, I'll pass over to you for screen sharing and your presentation. I think you're muted right now.
Thank you.
There we go.
Thank you. Thank you. Today I'm going to be speaking about protecting your intellectual property from devaluation through OpenChain Compliance. And let's just dive right in here. So,
looking good.
Yes, great. All right. So, my name is Giovanna Fessenden. I'm a intellectual property attorney. I'm formerly a software developer. I'm a computer scientist. I have been working in IP, which is patents, copyrights, trademarks for almost 20 years, and I have been working with technology companies on protecting their software and making sure they're open source compliant. I have expertise in all areas of software, and particularly like cryptocurrencies, electronic wallets, blockchain, video conferencing technologies, compression, video compression, software as a service technologies, esports and gaming. So I cover a lot of different types of software, and I'm thrilled to be a part of the OpenChain group and to be presenting today on how to protect your IP from devaluation. So one of the things I'm going to be covering in particular are the key goals for technology companies that use open source in their commercial products. So, obviously they want to maintain the ability to deliver software, protect their IP. You also want to protect your IP from devaluation. You want to mitigate security vulnerabilities, control your OSS contributions, avoid legal exposure, and you want to use OpenChain certification to help increase your market share, interoperability, and trust. So let's talk about these things. First, maintaining your ability to sell software products. So as a software developer, I know how easy it is to integrate third-party software into your, you've been working in your IDE and your integrated development environment, and it's just a click of the button away to be able to insert third-party software. If you need a function, you need a method call, you can import it into your software code. It's so easy. And many of my clients, my software companies, the executive legal team doesn't have an appreciation about how easy it is, and they may not have a knowledge of what's really going on under the hood in their software product. They don't, it's now becoming more common sense to appreciate that there are significant risks if you are not aware of your license obligations. But there are still a lot of companies out there that kind of have their head in the ground, and they're not, really making it an important, essential component to their business practices to ensure that they are aware of what software is being implemented in their software product and where it's coming from. And even minor violations can cause your company to be faced with significant legal risk. I mean, there's been, in the US, there's been a few lawsuits in the last several years. There's a $100 million lawsuit for a open source violation filed by Cokinetic against Panasonic, and that's significant. That's a significant risk to the company. I mean, you want to make sure that you comply with all of your open source obligations. And what better way to do so by becoming OpenChain compliant? And one of the beautiful things about the OpenChain compliance and certification is it's not a very like regimented process. You still have the flexibility. A company still has the flexibility of ensuring that they can implement an OpenChain compliance program without imposing like a stifling environment for their engineers. I mean, you can do it in a way that your software engineering team is not going to stifle innovation. So we have that kind of flexibility built in. You want to, become OpenChain compliant, and this will help you maintain your ability to sell your company's products. And you also want to ensure, OpenChain compliance throughout the supply chain. And all of your partners, your contract manufacturers, every single component in your system, you want to make sure it's OpenChain compliant. You want to treat it like a software defect, like a defect. This is a product defect. If they're not OpenChain compliant, it's a defective product. And you want to let your whole engineering team know that this is the policy. And this really will help protect the company's ability to maintain its ability to sell its products, at least with respect to risk for legal exposure for non-compliance of open source license obligations. So not only do you want to make sure that your company is OpenChain compliant, but you want to make sure that you are protecting the company's intellectual property. You want to protect your crown jewels. Just because that you are licensing components of your system or some software or all software as open source does not mean that you shouldn't protect the company's intellectual property. You want to review your software products for all the innovative features that it has, all the features that solve technical problems and that are new. And you want to strategize, what is this technology going to look like 10 years from now? And you want to build all that in. Like, is there going to be, an integration with the blockchain system that might be strategic, or, might there be some biometric feedback component that could help augment the system? You want to build all of these in to your patent application and protect the company's technology. It's a key component to ensuring that the company is protecting its IP and is going to help maintain its strategic edge and its market share, and give it a competitive advantage. Patent protection is a huge component to help ensure that the company is protecting its assets. Even the Linux Foundation has thousands of patents. I mean, this is open source, and patents can go hand in hand. They are not something that is mutually exclusive. And you want to file these patent applications early. So it's a great time when you're doing, when you're doing the assessments early on, trying to figure out where your software component's coming from. You also want to maybe review at the same time to see if there's something new and innovative in the source code or in the design or the implementation or the concept or any problems that you're solving with your system. You want to make that review constant with your teams. You want to have the team have like a patent committee that works with the software engineers and assesses if there are new and innovative features in the software that might be ripe for patent protection. And it might not just be, there's a couple different types of patents. There's utility patents, which cover they cover technical advantages, and then there are design patents that may be not technical advantages, but rather aesthetic. They just may be aesthetically pleasing. So you may have like a user console or an interface or some component that is aesthetically strategic and may give you a competitive advantage if you file for a design patent. So you want to take advantage of all the different types of intellectual property protection available, including copyright. And I would, I always recommend to file for copyright registration as early as possible before you publish your source code, even if it's an open source software product. Because as an example, let's say you're distributing your open source software under a open source license. If you have a copyright registration on that software, and a competitor, for example, uses your open source software and does not comply with the license, then you can potentially sue them for copyright infringement. And if you file for registration before they've made the infringing copy that doesn't comply with the license, then you may be entitled to enhanced statutory damages in the US. That's like up to $150,000 for every copy that they made, as well as attorney's fees. So that's a really nice perk. And it's not that you want to be litigious, but you just want to have save all your options, just in case. You just want to be able to be ready. And this is just part of your strategic planning for your intellectual property portfolio. So not only do you want to protect your IP by filing for protection on it, but you want to protect it from devaluation. So one of the biggest risks is that you're making open source contributions and you don't even know that you're doing it, that it's inadvertent. You want to contribute to the open source community, but those contributions need to be strategic. They need to be something that you are aware of, that the company, it makes a strategic decision to contribute to like a Linux partner project and to make a contribution. You want to contribute to that ecosystem, but they need to be a strategic decision, an intentional decision, not something that you did by accident. And as an example, I've worked with tons of clients that they may have a software product that they're getting ready to distribute, and we're going through to make an assessment. We use maybe like a software clearing to assess all the different licenses that are involved, and we find that there may be GPL or AGPL license obligations in there. And if the company has a proprietary component and it's tightly coupled with the GPL software, that may has a viral effect, as many of us know, and so it may also cause your proprietary component to need to be distributed under the GPL. And so that's something that the companies need to be aware of. They need to be sensitive to that. If it's a proprietary component, maybe we need to go into the weeds and to the code and separate it, make sure there's significant separation, that it's not part of the same program. This is part of the process. And hopefully if you implement like a robust OpenChain compliance program, that this won't be something you're doing at the last minute. This will have been taken care of throughout the software engineering process. You already have OpenChain compliance at every step of the road. So you won't be at the last minute trying to retool your software. But that happens. I've seen it happen too many times. So as we move towards a more OpenChain compliant community, we will see tremendous benefits, I think, with trust in the community and in software in general, and it'll inspire software innovation. So, we've talked about, you don't want to have inadvertent contributions, but you do want to contribute to the open source community. It's important to be a good player in the open source ecosystem. It helps inspire innovation, and if you are contributing to particular projects like Linux Foundation projects, you can make sure that your contributions help. Like, it can also augment your own technology, because if you're making a contribution, it may be something that ensures interoperability with your own system. And obviously, one of the big risks that we have seen the OpenChain group talk a lot about, and it's great. It's super that we have the resources and a great group that is specifically targeted to security issues. But this is a big risk. Security risks are a huge problem for software in general, and as well as with open source. It's a problem for, if you, the most important thing is, that you're getting your software from a trusted source, and, it's from a primary source, and these are, it's key. So, but it'll be nice once we have, in the future, have tools that can help be integrated within the software engineering process that will help identify code that might be at risk and potential threats. And that hopefully will become part of the like a standard as in terms of a software engineering process. So also to protect your intellectual property and to avoid your legal exposure, you want to avoid exposure to copyright trolls. And if you are OpenChain compliant, then you're in a good space. You're not likely to be, making minor violations by not including a copyright notice, or, forgetting to include a copy of an open source license in your distribution. So, but there have been, instances like Patrick McCarty, and who was a Linux developer for the Linux kernel, and he on his own, and he was not sanctioned by the good guys like the Free Software Foundation. He was kind of a rogue, copyright owner that was suing to protect, on big companies, or sending cease and desist letters to big companies and suing them potentially, like in Germany was the fertile ground for litigation, but for minor violations. And so you want to avoid exposure to the copyright trolls by just doing your best to comply. You want to be aware of your open source obligations, and you want to satisfy them. And that is the tenet of the OpenChain certification. So what are some of the benefits of having a robust IP and open source compliance program? Well, we've talked about it helps protect the company's technology, it helps provide a competitive edge for the company, and it helps protect the company's market share. So you want to file on your IP, you want to file early, and you want it to be strategic, and that can help protect your competitive edge and your market share. And you want to use OpenChain certification to increase the market share and interoperability and trust in your software products. That is going to be, a helpful marketing advantage to becoming OpenChain certified. And want to use OpenChain certification to reduce your legal exposure and your freedom to operate. You want to preserve your freedom to operate as a company, and foster relationships with the open source community and open source organizations. I mean, it's a good networking strategy to become OpenChain compliant, to be part of the OpenChain community, to be actively involved as a contributor in the OpenChain community. There are lots of advantages to making sure that you are a good citizen in the open source community. And you want to inspire OpenChain certification throughout the software engineering community to encourage trust in software and overall innovation. So the more OpenChain compliant software components out there, if it becomes a standard for all software in general, then we will see, I think, a real fertile, innovative environment for software. We could maybe see software reach its potential. So overall, you want an intellectual property portfolio that is going to help ensure future growth and attract investors and provide your company with the freedom to operate. And you can accomplish these goals through OpenChain compliance and in your own company and throughout your supply chain. And it will be, a key driver for the company to ensure that it has the freedom to operate in the future by becoming OpenChain compliant. So, going forward, in order to accomplish these goals, please feel free to reach out to me or any of my colleagues at Hamilton, Brook & Smith & Reynolds. We're in Boston. We're an intellectual property boutique. For any advice, legal advice that will help you be able to move forward and capitalize on your intellectual property and your OpenChain compliance program. Thank you. I look forward to being helpful. And I just put this quote because it just reminds me of, that if you implement your OpenChain compliance program now, you will reap the benefits in the future. And so that is something that we, should think about, that it's an investment for the long term. Thank you.